The alarm clock buzzed at 0500 hours sharp. Jinho Park rolled out of his narrow cadet bunk and hit the floor running. Today was the day he had been waiting for since he first stepped foot on Europa Station 3 years ago. Final tactical simulation. Past this, and he would graduate from the Terran Defense Academy with his squad. Fail, and they would all repeat another semester. Jinho splashed cold water on his face and looked in the mirror. Dark circles under his eyes showed he had not slept much. His black hair stuck up in all directions. He tried to smooth it down, but gave up after a few seconds. There were more important things to worry about than how he looked. Down the hall, he could hear his squad members getting ready. Minji Lee was probably already at her computer, checking the communication systems one more time. She always did. That before big exercises. Tai-Ho Kim would be cleaning his weapons, even though they were just training weapons. The big guy treated every piece of equipment like his life depended on it. Jinho pulled on his gray cadet uniform and walked to the common room. Sure enough, Minji sat at the main terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Her long black hair was tied back in a tight ponytail. She wore thick glasses that made her eyes look bigger than they really were. "Morning, Captain," she said without looking up from her screen. "All communication systems are green. I also ran a check on the translation software. Everything looks good." "Thanks, Minji. Where is everyone else?" "Mess hall, probably." "You know how Taeho gets when he is nervous. He eats everything in sight." Jinho laughed. It was true. The bigger the mission, the more food Taeho would pack away. Last month during the urban combat exercise, he had eaten 6 breakfast sandwiches before they even left the base. The mess hall buzzed with nervous energy. Dozens of cadet squads sat at long metal tables, eating what might be their last meal. Before the final test, some groups looked confident. Others looked like they might throw up their breakfast. Squadron Alpha 7 sat at their usual table in the corner. Tai-Ho Kim was indeed working on his 3rd helping of scrambled eggs. His massive frame made the plastic chair look like a toy. Despite his size, he moved with surprising gentleness as he ate. Nari Choi sat across from him, barely touching her food. The small, wiry girl had her combat boots propped up on the table. Her short hair was already tucked under a black bandana. She always said food was just fuel, nothing more. "Nervous?" Jinho asked as he sat down next to Dong-Yoon Seo. "Always," Dong-Yoon replied with a smile. The medic looked calm, but Jinho could see his hands shaking slightly as he drank his coffee. "But good nervous, the kind that keeps you sharp." "Yuna." Han rushed over to their table, her pilot jacket thrown over her shoulder. "Sorry I am late. I was doing final checks on the Taeguk. She is ready to fly. Any problems with the ship?" Jinho asked. "Nothing major. The left engine makes a weird noise when we turn hard, but it should hold together for the exercise." Siwon Beek looked up from his tablet. "I can fix that noise if you want. Probably just a loose coupling. No time now," Jinho said. "We can deal with it after the mission if needed." The last member of their squad, Hiji, slid into the seat next to Minji. She carried a thick folder full of papers and notes. Her job was to study enemy behavior and find weaknesses they could use. "I stayed up all night reading about the simulation," she said. "Based on past exercises, we will probably face a standard defensive setup. Guard posts, patrol routes, maybe. Some automated defenses. Probably?" Nari raised an eyebrow. "You mean you do not know for sure?" "The Academy changes things every year, but the basic pattern stays the same. They want to test our ability to work as a team under pressure." Commander Su-Yun appeared at their table like a ghost. The woman had a talent for moving silently. Her gray hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her uniform showed rows of medals from real combat missions. Squadron Alpha 7, report to Briefing Room C in 10 minutes, she said. Her voice was calm but firm. Finish your breakfast and get your gear. The briefing room was small and cramped. 8 chairs faced a large screen that showed a star map of the local system. Commander Yoon stood at the front with a laser pointer. In her hand, your mission is simple, she began. You will infiltrate an enemy base, retrieve classified data from their main computer, and escape within 72 hours. You have training weapons only. No lethal force is authorized. The screen changed to show a space station floating in the darkness. It looked like a metal flower with 6 petals extending from a central hub. Red dots marked what appeared to be weapon positions. Your target is monitoring station Zeta 9. Intelligence reports suggest it contains valuable information about enemy troop movements and supply lines. Your job is to get in, copy the data, and get out without getting caught. Jin-Ho studied the station carefully. It looked tough. Multiple docking bays, lots of windows that could hide snipers, and plenty of places for guards to set up ambush points. What kind of defenses are we looking at? He asked. Standard setup? Automated turrets, roving patrols, electronic security systems. Nothing you have not trained for. The enemy force consists of approximately 200 personnel with light combat vehicles. Taiho whistled softly. 200 against 8. Those are not great odds. This is not about odds, Commander Yoon replied. This is about using your brains instead of brute force. You are not soldiers yet. You are still students. Act like it. She handed Jin-Ho a datapad with their mission parameters. Your ship is the Taiguk. She is not much to look at, but she will get you there and back. You launch in 2 hours. The next hour passed in a blur of preparation. Jin-Ho checked and rechecked their equipment list. Training rifles that fired rubber bullets. Basic body armor. Emergency medical supplies. Communication. Gear. Enough food and water for 4 days. Mingji loaded the latest software into their portable computers. Taiho inspected every weapon twice, then cleaned them again. Nari studied maps of the target area, looking for the best approach routes. The Taiguk sat in docking bay 7, looking exactly like what she was, a beat-up training ship that had seen better days. Her hull showed scorch marks from previous exercises. One of her landing thrusters had been patched with metal tape. She is not pretty, but she flies, Yuna said as they walked up the boarding ramp. I have taken her out dozens of times. She has never let me down. The ship's interior was cramped but functional. 8 crew seats surrounded a central command console. Storage compartments lined the walls. Everything was painted the same dull gray color. Jin-Ho took his position in the command chair as his squad strapped themselves in. Through the small porthole windows, he could see other training ships preparing to launch. Some were heading out for basic flight training. Others were going on their own simulation missions. All systems green, Yuna reported from the pilot seat. Requesting permission to launch. Permission granted, Taiguk, came the voice from flight control. Good hunting, Squadron Alpha 7. The ship lifted off smoothly and headed toward the edge of the Europa system. Behind them, the ice-covered moon grew smaller. Ahead lay empty space and their target. None of them knew they were about to make history. The Taiguk flew through space for 6 hours before anything interesting happened. Jin-Ho had expected the journey to be boring, but this was almost too quiet. Most training exercises included some kind of surprise along the way. Random system, failures, mock enemy patrols, or navigation problems to test their skills. Yuna sat in the pilot seat, watching her instruments with growing confusion. This is weird, she said. We should have reached the simulation zone an hour ago, but my nav computer says we are still flying toward the target. Maybe they moved the exercise area, Dong-Yun suggested. The Academy does that sometimes to keep us guessing. Minji looked up from her communication station. I am picking up radio chatter on several frequencies, but it is not in any language. I recognize the computer is trying to translate it now. Probably just background noise from commercial ships, Jinho said, but something felt wrong. The chatter sounded too organized, too military. Real merchant vessels did not coordinate their movements like this. 3 more hours passed. The empty space around them began to fill with strange ships. They were not human designs. The hulls were too smooth, the angles too sharp. They looked like someone had carved them from single pieces of dark metal. Contacts on the scanner, Nari reported from her position at the sensor station. I count 12 ships in a defensive formation around our target. They are not broadcasting any identification signals. Jinho felt his stomach drop. Are you sure? Those are not holographic projections? Part of the simulation? They look real to me. Energy signatures, heat emissions, everything checks out. If those are holograms, they are the best ones I have ever seen. The translation software on Minji's computer suddenly beeped. Lines of text appeared on her screen as the system worked to decode the alien communications. I got something, she said, her voice tight with concern. The computer identified the language as Vorthik. It says here that Vorthik are a militant species from the Outer Rim. They have been probing human space for the past 6 months. That is impossible, Hyeji said. This is just a training exercise. Commander Yoon would not send cadets into actual combat. But even as she spoke, more evidence piled up. The ships around them moved with military precision. Their weapon systems were clearly active, and the space station they were approaching looked nothing like the images they had studied in the briefing room. This station was much larger. 4. One thing. Instead of 6 arms extending from a central hub, it had dozens of docking bays and sensor arrays. Alien symbols covered its hull. Strange lights pulsed in patterns that hurt to look at directly. We need to abort the mission and head home, Dong-Yun said. This has gone way beyond a training exercise. Jinho stared at the screen showing their target. His mind raced through their options. They could turn around and run back to Europa Station. That was probably the smart thing to do. But what if this really was part of the test? What if the Academy was seeing how they would react to unexpected situations? No, he said finally. We continue the mission. Are you crazy? Nari asked. Those are real alien warships out there. We have training weapons and a ship held together. With tape and hope. Look at it this way, Jinho said. If this is really a training exercise, and running away means we fail. If this is a real situation, then we are the only human force in position to gather intelligence on what the aliens are doing. He pointed at the screen. Either way, we need to complete our mission. Get to that station, copy whatever data we can find, and get out. The alien ships had not paid much attention to the small human vessel. To them, the Taijik probably looked like a minor patrol craft, or maybe a supply ship. Nothing worth worrying about. That changed when Yuna began her approach to the station. She flew the ship in a series of complex maneuvers designed to avoid detection. Rolling, diving, changing speed and direction in ways that made it hard for enemy sensors to track them. What she did not know was that these maneuvers were far more advanced than anything the aliens had seen before. To the Vorthik commanders watching, it looked like the human ship was performing impossible stunts. Their own vessels could never move like that. Small human craft is approaching docking bay 7, one of the alien voices said over the radio. Minji's translation software was getting better at converting their speech. Should we intercept? Negative, came the reply. Let them dock. We will capture them for interrogation. It will be interesting to learn what humans know about our operations. The docking bay was huge compared to what they were used to. The Taiguk looked like a toy next to the massive alien ships parked around them. Strange vehicles moved cargo containers with mechanical arms. Alien workers in environment suits welded metal plates and checked systems. "This is definitely not a simulation," Taiho said as they watched through the windows. "Those aliens look very real to me." Jinho made his decision. "We stick to the mission plan. Nari, I want you to scout the station and find the main computer core. Minji, monitor their communications and try to jam their security systems. Taiyo, you and Siwan cover our escape route. Everyone else, we go in fast and quiet." They suited up in their training gear, checking weapons and equipment one final time. The rubber bullets in their rifles suddenly seemed very inadequate against alien soldiers in combat armor. The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss. Beyond lay a corridor that stretched into darkness. The walls were covered with alien writing that glowed with soft blue light. The air smelled like ozone and machine oil. Nari took point, moving silently down the corridor with her scanner in hand. Behind her, the rest of the squad followed in single file. Their boots made soft clicking. Sounds on the metal floor. "Movement ahead," Nari whispered into her radio. 2 guards at the next intersection. They look like they are wearing some kind of powered armor. Jinho crept forward to get a look. The aliens were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. Their armor covered them from head to toe in overlapping metal plates. Each one carried a weapon that hummed with energy. "Can we go around them?" he asked. "Negative. This is the only way to the central core." Jinho thought fast. In training exercises, they had practiced dozens of ways to deal with armed guards. Most involved creating distractions or using stealth to sneak past. But those tactics assumed human guards with human weaknesses. "Yeji, what do you know about alien psychology?" he whispered. "Not much. But if they are anything like humans, they probably get bored standing guard duty. They might not be paying close attention." It was worth a try. Jinho signaled for Siwan to set up a small explosive charge on a wall panel about 50 meters behind. The guards, not enough to hurt anyone, but loud enough to get their attention. The charge went off with a bang that echoed through the corridors. Both alien guards immediately ran toward the sound, leaving their post undefended. "Move, move, move," Jinho whispered. The squad sprinted past the empty guard post and deeper into the station. Behind them, they could hear the aliens talking in their strange language, probably wondering what had caused the explosion. None of them realized that their simple training exercise had just caused the first diplomatic incident between humans and aliens in galactic history. The deeper they went into the alien station, the more wrong everything felt. The corridors were too tall for humans, forcing them to look up at control panels and doorways. Strange smells filled the air, something like burning copper mixed with flowers. Worst of all, they kept running into alien technology that did things they had never seen before. Siwan stopped at a wall panel covered in glowing symbols. "I think this controls the lighting system," he said, "but I cannot figure out how it works." "Just leave it alone," Jinho whispered. "We do not want to attract attention." Too late. Siwan had already pressed what looked like a simple switch. The lights in the corridor began flashing red and yellow in a pattern that made everyone dizzy to watch. "Warning," came a voice from hidden speakers. "Unauthorized access to environmental controls. Security teams respond to Sector 7. "Great," Nari muttered. "Now they know exactly where we are." They heard heavy footsteps approaching from 3 different directions. The alien guards were moving fast, their metal boots clanging against the floor. Jinho counted at least 12. Sets of feet, maybe more. This way, Nari said, pointing down a side corridor. My scanner shows an alternate route to the computer core. They ran through passages that seemed designed for creatures much taller than humans. Emergency lights cast weird shadows on the walls. The alien writing glowed brighter now, as if the station was waking up to deal with the intruders. Taiho brought, up the rear, his training rifle ready. When the first alien guard rounded the corner behind them, he did what his instructors had taught him. Aim for center mass, squeeze the trigger, move to cover. The rubber bullet hit the alien square in the leg. Chest. The creature made a sound like air escaping from a balloon and collapsed. Its armor, designed to stop energy weapons, had no protection against physical projectiles. Did you see that? Taiho called out. Their armor is useless against kinetic. Rounds. Impossible, Jinil replied. They must be using some kind of new training system that simulates armor failure. But 3 more aliens appeared at the end of the corridor, and Taihe shot all 3 with the same result. Each rubber bullet punched through their armor like it was made of paper. The aliens fell down and did not get back up. What the humans did not understand was that the Vorthik had evolved on a world where most weapons used energy beams or plasma charges. Their entire military doctrine was built around deflecting those kinds of attacks. Simple kinetic weapons like bullets had been obsolete in their society for thousands of years. To the surviving aliens, it looked like the humans had developed some kind of super advanced armor-piercing technology. The fact that human soldiers could defeat Vorthik battle armor with such ease was terrifying. Fall back to defensive positions, came the voice of the alien commander over their radio system. The humans have weapons we do not understand. Treat them as extremely dangerous. Minji heard this through her translation program and felt a chill run down her spine. Guys, I think they are taking us seriously, maybe too seriously. Meanwhile, Hiji was having problems of her own. As the team's specialist in psychological warfare, she had been trained to use human behavioral patterns against enemy forces. Things like playing loud music to keep guards awake, or using bright lights to cause confusion and stress. The problem was that aliens did not react to these techniques the way humans did. When she activated a sonic disruptor designed to cause mild discomfort in human ears, it had a much stronger effect on alien hearing. The Vorthik soldiers in the next section began making high-pitched screaming sounds and fled their positions. What did you do to them? Dong-Yoon asked as they watched alien guards running away in panic. Nothing major. Just a standard crowd control device. It should only cause minor discomfort. Minor discomfort does not usually make people run away. Screaming. What they did not know was that Vorthik hearing was much more sensitive than human hearing. The sonic disruptor, harmless to human ears, sounded like a torture device to the aliens. Several of them suffered permanent damage to their audio sensors. The station's central computer core sat behind a massive door made of some kind of black metal. Strange symbols covered its surface, pulsing with different colors as the station's. Security systems tried to keep the intruders out. Can you get us through? Jinho asked Siwon. The engineer studied the door for several minutes, running his scanner over the alien technology. I think so. The locking mechanism uses magnetic fields instead of physical locks. If I can overload the power coupling. He attached a small explosive charge to what looked like a power junction. In training, these charges were designed to breach standard human security doors. They had enough force to melt through steel plating or disable electronic locks. The alien door was made of much lighter materials than human security barriers. When Siwon's charge went off, it did not just unlock the door. It blew a hole 3 meters wide straight through the wall. Alarms started screaming throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed in patterns that made it hard to see. From somewhere, deep in the facility, came the sound of heavy machinery starting up. "Breach in Central Core," the alien commander's voice crackled over their radios. "All units converge on Sector 9. The humans have weapons capable of destroying our strongest barriers." Inside the computer core, banks of alien processors hummed with activity. Thousands of screens showed star charts, troop movements, and supply schedules. This was clearly the command center for a major military operation. Minji plugged her portable computer into what looked like a data port. Her software, designed to crack standard military encryption, went to work on the alien files. "This is incredible," she said as data flowed across her screen. "They have detailed maps of human space, shipping routes, military bases. This is not just a monitoring station. This is an invasion planning center." "How long do you need to copy everything?" Jinho asked. "Give me 10 minutes. They did not have 10 minutes. Alien soldiers were massing outside the destroyed door, setting up heavy weapons and preparing for an assault. Taihao took position behind an overturned console and prepared to hold them off. The first wave of aliens charged through the hole in the wall. Taihei opened fire with his training rifle, and the results were devastating. Rubber bullets that should have caused minor bruises punched through alien armor like it was made of cloth. But it was not just the physical damage. The psychological effect was even worse. The Vorthik had never faced an enemy that could penetrate their battle armor so easily. To them, it looked like human soldiers were equipped with impossible weapons. "Retreat," shouted the alien commander. "Fall back to secondary positions. The human weapons are too powerful." Within minutes, the computer core was empty except for Squadron Alpha 7. The alien forces had withdrawn to defensive positions deeper in the station, apparently convinced that they faced an enemy with superior technology. "Data download complete," Minji announced. "I got everything. Troop positions, supply schedules, communication codes, the works." "Then let us get out of here," Jinho said. But as they prepared to leave, Dong-Yun made a discovery that would change everything. In one corner of the computer core, he found 3 wounded Vorthik soldiers who had been left behind during the retreat. The aliens were in bad shape. Their armor was cracked, and some kind of purple fluid was leaking from their wounds. They made weak chittering sounds when they saw the humans approaching. "They are hurt," Dong-Yun said. "I should help them." "Are you crazy?" Nari asked. "They are the enemy. They are wounded. It does not matter who they are." Dong-Yun knelt beside the first alien and began applying human first aid techniques. He cleaned the wounds with antiseptic and wrapped them with medical tape. For the alien with the worst injuries, he used a stimulant injector designed to help humans recover from shock. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The purple fluid stopped leaking. The alien's breathing became steady and strong. Within minutes, it was sitting up and looking around with alert eyes. What Dong-Yun had accidentally done was cure a genetic condition that affected most Vorthik. The stimulant, harmless to humans, acted like a miracle drug on alien physiology. It repaired damage that their own medicine could not fix. The 3 aliens stared at their human rescuer with something like awe. Then they began talking rapidly in their own language, too fast for the translation software to follow. "What are they saying?" Jinho asked. Minji worked frantically with her computer. "Something about ... healing magic? Advanced medical technology?" "I cannot get a clear translation." "We need to go now," Yuna said over the radio from the Taiguk. "More alien ships are arriving. I count at least 6 heavy cruisers moving into position around the station." As Squadron Alpha 7 prepared to escape, none of them realized that their routine training exercise had just convinced an entire alien military that humans possessed technology beyond their understanding. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humanity was a very dangerous mistake. Getting back to the Taiguk should have been the easy part. Jinho had planned a simple withdrawal route through maintenance corridors that would avoid most of the alien guards. What he had not planned for was how completely the Vorthic forces had fallen apart. The corridors were empty. Not just quiet, completely abandoned. Alien equipment lay scattered on the floor where soldiers had dropped it while running away. Emergency lights blinked in frantic patterns, but no one seemed to be monitoring them anymore. "This is too easy," Nari whispered as they crept through passages that should have been heavily defended. Where did everybody go? Her question was answered when they reached the main corridor leading to the docking bay. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they could see dozens of alien soldiers huddled together in what looked like a surrender formation. Their weapons were piled in neat stacks. Their hands were raised above their heads. "Are they surrendering to us?" Taiho asked in disbelief. "Looks like it," Jinho replied. But he could not understand why. Sure, they had taken out some guards and broken into the computer core, but 8 humans should not be enough to make an entire station surrender. What he did not know was that news of their attack had spread throughout the Vorthic communication network. Military commanders across 3 star systems were listening to reports that made human capabilities sound almost godlike. High Strategos Vextar sat in his command center, staring at screens full of impossible data. His best soldiers, equipped with the finest armor in the hegemony, had been defeated by weapons that seemed to ignore their defenses entirely. His strongest security barriers had been destroyed by charges that should not have been powerful enough to dent them. "Explain to me again how 8 humans did this," he said to his intelligence officer. "Sir, the evidence is clear. They used kinetic projectile weapons that completely bypass our energy shielding. Their explosives are far more powerful than our intelligence reports suggested. And their medical technology." The officer paused, consulting his datapad. "Sir, they healed 3 of our wounded soldiers. Completely. Injuries that our doctors said were fatal." "Healed them? How?" "Unknown, sir. But the soldiers report that the human medic used some kind of advanced stimulant that repaired genetic damage we thought was incurable." Vextar felt his stomach drop. If humans had medical technology that advanced, what other surprises were they hiding? What about their ship? The pilot is performing maneuvers that should be impossible. Our tracking systems can barely follow her flight patterns. Either their engines are far more powerful than we thought, or they have some kind of gravity control technology. Outside the station, Yuna was indeed performing maneuvers that impressed the alien observers. But she was not trying to show off. The Taijuk's left engine was still making that weird noise, and she had discovered that rapid course changes seemed to reduce the vibration dot to the Vorthic fleet commanders watching. It looked like the small human ship was dancing through space with contempt for the laws of physics. Their own vessels could never match such agility. "Should we open fire?" asked the captain of the nearest cruiser. "Negative," Vextar replied. "If their defensive technology is as advanced as their weapons, our energy beams will be useless. We might only make them angry." Back inside the station, Squadron Alpha 7 made their way toward the docking bay through corridors full of surrendering aliens. The creatures pressed themselves against the walls as the humans passed, chittering nervously in their own language. Minji's translation software was working overtime to process all the alien chatter. Most of it was requests for mercy, but some phrases kept repeating that made no sense. "They keep calling us the Silent Death," she reported. "And something about weapons of the Ancient Ones. I do not understand what they mean." "Ancient Ones?" Hyeji asked. "Maybe they think we are connected to some old enemy of theirs." What they did not realize was that Vorthak mythology included legends about a race of warriors who could kill with invisible weapons and heal the dying with magic potions. The humans had accidentally fulfilled every detail of these ancient stories. The docking bay was in chaos. Alien work crews had abandoned their posts and were hiding behind cargo containers. The few guards present dropped their weapons as soon as they saw the human squad approaching. Yuna had the Taiguk ready for immediate departure. The engines were running hot, and she had plotted a course back to human space that would take them through the safest possible route. All aboard, she called as the squad ran up the boarding ramp. We need to leave now. My sensors show more alien ships arriving every minute. As the Taiguk lifted off from the station, something unprecedented happened. Instead of trying to stop them, the alien ships moved aside to let them pass. Not just the small patrol craft, but the massive cruisers as well. Are they seriously just letting us go? Tai Hao asked as he watched the alien fleet through the porthole windows. Maybe they do not want to risk a fight, Jino said. But he was as puzzled as everyone else. The truth was much more complicated. Across the Vorthic communication network, military commanders were having emergency conferences about the human super soldiers, who had just demonstrated impossible capabilities. Contact from Cruiser Group Talar, reported a communications officer. Aboard Vexstar's flagship, Captain Jules Var requests permission to withdraw from the engagement zone. Granted, Vexstar replied immediately. Signal all ships to maintain defensive positions only. No aggressive action against human forces. But Captain Jules Var was already making his own decisions. His cruiser, the Razor Wind, had been monitoring human radio frequencies for months. Now those same frequencies were carrying what sounded like detailed tactical communications from the human Special Forces team. What he was actually hearing was Squadron Alpha 7's normal post-mission chatter. Minji was running diagnostics on her equipment. Taiho was cleaning his rifle. Dongyun was updating his medical log with notes about treating alien injuries. To Captain Jules Var, it sounded like a highly professional military unit conducting advanced operations with casual efficiency. The fact that they discussed neutralizing enemy armor and bypassing security barriers in such matter-of-fact terms convinced him that humanity possessed military capabilities far beyond anything the hegemony could match. Communications, open a channel to the human vessel, he ordered. Sir? His communications officer looked confused. Are we attacking them? Negative. We are surrendering to them. The message that reached the Taiguk was simple but shocking. Human. Vessel. This is Captain Jules Var of the Vorthic cruiser Razor Wind. We formally surrender our ship and crew to your superior forces. Please indicate where you want us to deliver our vessel. Minji stared at her screen in complete bewilderment. Did they just surrender to us? That is what it sounds like, Jino replied. But why would they do that? Before anyone could answer, 2 more alien cruisers sent similar messages. Then 3 patrol ships. Within an hour, the entire Vorthic fleet in the area had formally surrendered to 8 human cadets in a training ship. The cascade effect spread beyond the immediate area. Other Vorthic commanders, monitoring the situation, began to recalculate their assumptions about human military strength. If a single squad of humans could force the surrender of an entire fleet, what would happen when full human battle groups arrived? High Strategos Vexstar found himself facing the most difficult decision of his career. His orders from the hegemony were clear: establish monitoring posts in human space and prepare for eventual invasion. But those orders had been based on intelligence that was clearly wrong. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 more ships across 4 star systems. All of them report encounters with superior human technology. Vexstar closed his eyes and made his choice. Signal all hegemony forces in this sector. Full withdrawal to defensive positions. No further offensive operations against human space. Sir, that directly contradicts our orders from High Command. High Command did not know what we were really facing out here. I will take responsibility for this decision. As the Taiguk made its way back toward human space, its crew remained completely unaware that they had just ended an alien invasion before it started. Behind them, dozens of alien warships were beginning the long journey home, their commanders convinced that humanity was too dangerous to fight. The galactic balance of power had just shifted, and 8 human cadets had no idea they were responsible. The journey back to Europa Station took 12 hours. For most of that time, Squadron Alpha 7 sat in confused silence, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Every few minutes, Minji would intercept another alien transmission, announcing the surrender of more Vorthic ships. This cannot be real, Yeji said for the 10th time. Training exercises do not work this way. Jinho stared out the porthole window at the stars. His mind kept going over every detail of their mission, looking for clues about what had gone wrong. Or right, depending on how you looked at it. Maybe the Academy has been planning this for months, he said. Maybe they wanted to see how we would react to a really unexpected situation. By putting us in actual combat with real aliens? Taiho shook his head. That seems like a good way to get cadets killed. Yuno is having her own problems in the pilot's seat. The Taijuke's navigation computer kept showing impossible readings. According to the star charts, they had traveled much farther from Europa Station than any training exercise should have taken them. We are in deep space, she announced. I mean really deep space. We are almost at the edge of human territory. That cannot be right, Dong Yun protested. We only flew for 6 hours before reaching the target. Then either our clocks are wrong, or that alien station was a lot farther away than Commander Yoon told us. The answer came 3 hours later, when their communication system picked up a transmission from Terra Command. The voice belonged to Admiral Chun, the highest-ranking officer in the Terran Defense Force. Any human vessel, this is Admiral Chun, aboard the TDF Yorktown. We are conducting search and rescue operations for missing Cadet Squadron Alpha 7. If you have any information about their whereabouts, please respond immediately. Minji looked at Jinho with wide eyes. They think we are missing. Taiguk to Terra Command, Jinho said into his microphone. This is Cadet Captain Park reporting. Squadron Alpha 7 is safe and returning to base. The response came back so fast. It was obvious Admiral Chun had been waiting by the radio. Alpha 7, this is Admiral Chun. What is your current position? Yuna read off their coordinates. There was a long pause before the Admiral replied. Alpha 7, those coordinates place you in the outer rim, approximately 200 light years from your last known position. How did you get there? Sir, we were following our mission orders from Commander Yoon. We infiltrated the target station and retrieved the requested data. Another pause, even longer this time. Alpha 7, there was no mission to the outer rim. Your training exercise was supposed to take place in the inner system, 30 kilometers from Europa Station. The pieces finally clicked together in Junho's mind. The long journey, the strange alien technology, the ships that looked too real to be holograms. They had not been in a training exercise at all. Admiral, he said carefully, I think we may have stumbled into something bigger than a training mission. 6 hours later, the TDF Yorktown intercepted the Taiguk at the edge of human space. The massive battleship dwarfed the small training vessel as it pulled alongside. When Squadron Alpha 7 transferred to the larger ship, they found themselves facing not just Admiral Chun, but a dozen other high-ranking officers and several civilians in expensive suits. Gentlemen, ladies, Admiral Chun began, you have just accomplished something that our best intelligence services have been trying to do for months. You have penetrated a major alien military installation and returned with detailed information about their invasion plans. He activated a holographic display showing the data Minji had stolen from the Vorthic computer core. Star charts appeared in the air, showing planned attack routes into human space. Troop deployment schedules, supply lists, communication codes. This intelligence is priceless, one of the civilians said. With this information, we can prepare proper defenses against any Vorthic attack. About that, Admiral Chun continued, it appears there will not be any Vorthic attack, at least not anytime soon. The holographic display changed to show a real-time map of Vorthic fleet movements. Hundreds of alien ships were withdrawing from the border regions, falling back to defensive positions deep in their own territory. According to our monitors, the entire Vorthic hegemony has gone into full defensive mode. Their fleet commanders are sending messages to their government, requesting immediate reinforcements and better weapons to counter what they call superior human military technology. Tejo laughed despite himself. Superior technology? We had rubber bullets and a ship held together with metal tape. Nevertheless, Admiral Chun replied, you have somehow convinced one of the most aggressive military powers in the galaxy that humanity is too dangerous to fight. I have been in the military for 30 years, and I have never seen anything like it. The debriefing took 6 hours. Every member of Squadron Alpha 7 had to describe their actions in detail, from the moment they left Europa Station to their return. Military analysts took notes on everything, trying to understand how 8 cadets had accidentally prevented an interstellar war. The key factor seems to be misunderstanding, explained Dr. Sarah Kim, a xenobiologist who had studied Vorthic physiology. Everything you did was interpreted through the lens of their own cultural expectations. She activated another holographic display showing Vorthic anatomy. Their armor is designed to stop energy weapons, which is what they have used for thousands of years. Your kinetic projectiles went through their defenses like they were made of paper. But they were just training rounds, Dong Yun protested. Yes. To them, it looked like you had developed armor-piercing bullets that could defeat their best protection. Combined with your explosives breaching their security barriers and your medical treatment healing their wounded, it created a picture of technological superiority that terrified them. Commander Yoon appeared in the briefing room, looking both proud and concerned. I should explain what really happened with your mission orders, she began. There was a computer error in the navigation system. Your ship was supposed to go to Training Station Beta in the inner system. Instead, the coordinates were changed to match a real intelligence target that our reconnaissance teams have been trying to reach for months. You mean this was all an accident? Minji asked. Complete accident. But the best kind of accident. You have accomplished more in one day than our entire intelligence division has managed in 6 months. The award ceremony took place a week later. Squadron Alpha 7 received the Terran Defense Medal, the highest honor given to military personnel. The ceremony was broadcast across human space and monitored by dozens of alien governments. But the real changes were happening behind the scenes. The Zeridian Trade Consortium, a peaceful merchant empire, immediately sent ambassadors requesting defense treaties with humanity. The Krillian Empire upgraded human diplomatic status to major galactic power overnight. Most surprising of all, the mysterious ethereal collective sent observers to study what they called human tactical innovation. No one had ever seen an ethereal before, and their presence at the ceremony convinced other alien governments that humanity was more important than they had previously thought. 6 months later, Jingho sat in his new office aboard the TDF Sol, the newest battleship in the human fleet. His promotion to lieutenant had come with command of a full squadron of ships and a mission to patrol the border region's dot through his office window. He could see alien vessels from a dozen different species. Some were traders, bringing goods from across the galaxy. Others were diplomats, negotiating treaties and agreements. A few were military observers, studying human tactics and trying to understand what made humanity so dangerous. None of them knew the truth. That the most significant military victory in human history had been won by 8 confused cadets who thought they were taking a test. Minji's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we are receiving a priority transmission from Europa Station. Commander Yoon says the new class of cadets is ready for their final training exercise." Jinho smiled. "Tell her we will be there to monitor the exercise." "And Minji?" "Yes, sir." "Double-check the navigation coordinates this time. We do not want another accident like the last one." "Understood, sir." Though I have to say, the last accident worked out pretty well for humanity. Through his window, Jinho watched an alien cargo ship dock with the space station. Its hull was painted with symbols indicating peaceful intentions. A new requirement for all vessels entering human space. The galaxy had learned to take humanity seriously. And it all started with a training drill that went completely wrong. Or maybe, Jinho thought it had gone exactly right.